using artificial intelligence to fight against artificial intelligence with today's special guest, Alex Fink.
Today's episode is brought to you by the bestseller ChatGPT Profits. This book is the missing instruction manual to get you up and running with ChatGPT in a matter of minutes. As a special gift, you can get it absolutely free at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift or at the link right below this episode. Make sure to grab your copy before it goes back up to full price. Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss, and start living your retirement dreams now, then you come to the right place. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast Show, where you will learn how to use artificial intelligence to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
A topic near and dear to my heart is how cluttered everything gets between my news feeds and advertisements. Everything is surrounded by recommendations for things that I don't want, I'm not interested in, and I find distractions. For years, I didn't know that Facebook ran ads because I had such a good ad blocker running that people would talk about it. I said, I've never seen any. I blocked them out because I wouldn't use the platform. It's the reason I stopped using MySpace. It became more ads than pro. We're coming back that era again. If you look at Google search results, the page has 50 results, of which maybe 2 are actual search results. And it's known that even if it's not a paid search result, large companies that spend money on advertisements somehow also get pretty good organic search results too. So their thumb is absolutely on the scale. The original intent is gone. Interesting is your project, what you talk about is helping people to actually get the information they want and block out the information they don't want. So can you tell me how you first got interested in that idea and then how you're using AI to implement that?
So actually, one of the things that you said is the key here, which is that the ads themselves can be blocked. But what we can't quite fix, or at least couldn't fix until a couple of years ago, was the way in which the underlying content has been changed to accommodate ads, right? And that's the part that we've been trying to fight all along, which is, okay, you want to monetize using ads, do that, but why are you writing a different article? That probably means it's not done for us, the readers. It's done just to make monetization better. So I got into it in a sense because I've been an information junkie. I've just been consuming a bunch of stuff for several decades. And at some point I started noticing everything is getting worse and I don't know why. And so I started looking into it. And the hypothesis I came up with was that if everything is monetized using ads and ads pay per click or per view, then somehow all content evolves to become clickbait over time, because that's the single selective pressure. And so it almost doesn't matter if people have good intentions, bad intentions, the content itself will drift that way. And maybe the people who are trying to fight this tide are just going to get left behind. And we started out by developing a bunch of filters that just try to measure things, try to figure out, is this clickbait headline, not a clickbait headline? Is this offensive content, not offensive? Are these links affiliate links, or are they actual links to something that is a proper reference to what you're writing? And then we accumulated about 20 of these. We created a nutrition label for every article based on these. And at some point, the users of this nutrition label product asked us, can you make your own platform? And that's how the other book was born.
So it's interesting to think about how content is driven, even the fact that we call it content now, right? People say, I'm a content creator. We used to say I write news articles or I create videos, but now everything is content. And the biggest example of this I think of is when articles started having top 20 lists and you'd have to click next page to see all 20. And the reason they do this is to get 20 times the page views. So that's worth 20 more than a long form article that you read on a single page, because each time the ads reload, they get paid a little bit more. And when you see this content race to the bottom, what I'm really interested in is exactly how we can extract ourselves from this. Because even ad blockers, it's a constant war between ad blockers and sites. Even sites like YouTube now say, oh, if you block the ads, then we'll ban you from our site. Like, you're not allowed to use this site. And you get those warnings all the time. And there's sometimes they're really tricky. Oh, if you really want to support us, let our ads run. And then some of those sites actually have an infected ad that the ad blocker is actually blocking the virus. and malicious things. I've even seen advertisements that will use your computer processing power to mine for crypto coins. So they're doing all sorts of different strange things. And it's this constant race between ad blocking and ad creation technology. So it sounds like you're taking a different approach, which is actually just looking at the content as opposed to looking at the code. So you're actually looking from the human side. Is that correct?
Yeah. And actually, if we run forward into what I'd like to do 10 years from now, I would like to have a world in which the ads pay a different amount based on the quality of the underlying content. So that the same ad, same click, same everything, assuming they are normal ads and not the kind that mine Bitcoin on your computer. But if they are normal ads, they shouldn't pay the same amount on TMZ that they do on CNN. Not saying CNN is perfect, right? But it's better than TMZ. So from my perspective, there should be some differential to incentivize TMZ to become a little more like CNN. Right now, everybody is incentivized to become those kind of listicles that you mentioned with the 20 times clicks next. And there's a bunch of fake articles underneath that look like real articles, but they're ads too, and things like that, right? So everything is evolving in that way, and it is a race to the bottom. By the way, one thing you mentioned that these listicles, the top 20, are the ones that were the breaking point for you. The breaking point for me was autoplaying videos, right? When I just noticed that first they appeared on one website, then they started appearing on others, and now they're everywhere because you can't afford not to have them, essentially, if your competitors have them. Their engagement is going to be better. So nobody wants it. It's bad for the users and for the outlets. It's basically just an arms race. But you have to do it because otherwise you will be beaten. Yeah, our approach has been not to focus on the ads. Ad blockers do a great job at that. One day I would want to have an ad blocker that blocks ads differentially based on what the page is, but let's leave that for later. For now, I want to focus on what is the quality of the underlying content. Does it match what you want it to consume? So if you wanted to consume entertaining article, let's say cute animals doing stuff, then an article titled "Stop What You're Doing and Watch This Elephant Play with Bubbles" is just fine, right? But if you're going to CNN and you want to read the news, and CNN publishes an article titled "Stop What You're Doing and Watch This Elephant Play with Bubbles," which they did, then something's off, right? This article is in their news section, and you know it's there because people click on it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a lot of times there's content that people post. Like I think about my link feed. So that's the social network I'm most active on. And so much of the content there's a huge spread in quality. There's some really good content, like high quality, really well written articles, thought out. They're buried below, especially now. This is why I most wanted to talk to you about it. Just a lot of AI generated low quality content. Like I don't mind, and this is me, I'll read a book that I'm pretty sure was written by AI if it's good. As an author myself, that's my line is different than other people's. I don't care if someone programmed ChatGPT, but if the end result of using the machine is that the book is really good, I like the story. That's what matters to me. The same thing I feel about content. It's okay if you use AI generated images, if they look cool. So much. And this is what I was thinking about. I don't know. More and more AIs have the ability to see. There's a huge spectrum in quality of images. And some of the images now look worse than what we saw 20 and 30 years ago with clip art. Like people are generating really terrible images and they go, it's what I made, posting it. And I am, like today, I was working on a thumbnail for a YouTube video and it's a picture of me, AI generated image of me. I probably did 40 or 50 generations of different versions of the image to get down to 6 finalists. And then I picked 3 for the 3 thumbnail variations.
Right.
Think of just using the first 3 images generated and go, these are the first 3 I made, so that's what I'm using. I don't think that way, but a lot of people do. So can your tool, your approach, other web help the way your AI works? Can it block like social media content as well based on quality?
So right now we're only applying it to things that are written in the form of an article. So essentially news, commentary, Wikipedia, research studies, anything like that. We essentially don't scrape social media directly. We can tune the models and apply it to that as well, but we will have to figure out what the standard is. Because in social media, people post with different intents. And again, maybe one post is intended to inform you, the other post is intended just to entertain you or to be sarcastic, you don't want to apply the same filtering criteria to both. It wouldn't make sense, right? The sarcastic post might be good for what it is. It would make for a terrible thing if the intent was to inform you. But I want to go back to one thing that you mentioned, which is that you don't mind if AI did it, if it's good. Our approach is the same. And I've been actually talking to a lot of journalists and people on like cable news lately, etc. And they always ask this question, can you tell if something has been done by AI or not? And my immediate response is, which I don't always voice, but that's the thing that I hear in my head is, why do you care? Is it good? That's what should matter, right? If AI created something good, then I'd rather read that than if a human created something bad. And that's my approach to things. But the reality is AI makes it easier to create bad stuff. Yes, some people like you might use it to create a better book. But for the most part, if a journalist is substituting a large percentage of their work with AI, they're not doing it to create the best work they can. They're doing it to create more output. That's what it's mostly used for. And so instead of 10 clickbait articles per day, it will be 200 clickbait articles per day. It's not going to be a great work of investigative journalism where they use the AI just to edit the commas out.
I think of AI like alcohol. Alcohol brings out whatever your real personality is. If you have a bad personality, alcohol makes it louder. It just makes it a bigger version of who you are. And the same thing with AI. People want to make low quality content or have that approach. It just gets bigger. I always think about my experience. A lot of people are surprised, but I don't like the internet because if it wasn't my job, I would never be online. I just wouldn't. I'd be living my life in person, living out loud. And maybe that's because it is my job. It becomes, whatever you do at work, you don't want to do at home. One of the things I think about is what if you could just block out? I remember when going on Facebook was exciting. Remember those times like 20 years ago? You're like, oh, I can't wait to see what, and maybe this is because of my young single days, they see if any of the cute girls I was flirting with had posted a new picture or something interesting was happening or what people are doing tonight. Like everyone posted about, I went on vacation, here's all the pictures. Or we went rock climbing here, and people would upload like 100 pictures. And now my feed is not like that. You never see things that are interesting, especially Facebook's the worst for me. But the same thing for Twitter. Twitter, I'm looking for specific things. I can never find what I'm looking for. And maybe it's because I don't know how to search it right. But there's a lot of content I want to find because other people find the tweets I want, which are about, oh, I figured this out with AI. I had this development. I'm looking for up-to-date news and what people are looking on. It is really hard to find. And the positive energy is what I think about the most. Social media seems to have made everyone less social and is shifted. I just wonder, like about your concept that was an implementation based, the idea of you can just block out content that was AI generated or that's not interesting. And maybe that's the thing is that my line is I just love to see stuff that's only positive or happy or interesting because that's a different line for everyone. But the idea with an AI that more you can get personal, you can start to say, I use a news tool that aggregates like 100 AI news feeds for AI news articles. And I tell it, I like that article. And it still slips. A lot of the ones that are wrong still slip through, but less and less because there's so much content. So for that's a volume issue. And so I spend 1 to 3 hours a day just going through news articles. But the thought of doing it more efficiently, I'm always thinking about real value of AI is that you can do good things faster rather than you can do more bad things.
And by the way, we take a very similar approach to the one you described. We try to scrape, I think right now it's close to 30,000 articles per day. And then we try to pare it down until you get the best one according to your definition of best. And one of that is using things that the AI models learned about the article to filter out. That's the nutrition label and your different filters that you can configure. The other one is creating a bullet point summary for every article. So you can skim articles instead of reading the whole thing and then decide which one you actually want to read. But even beyond that, you mentioned that you like things that are more positive and happy. True, but some people like the opposite. And so one of the things that we decided to do is classify every article according to the emotions it's likely to evoke in the reader and let you configure which emotions you'd like to receive. So if you like the hopeful, the positive, the educational, you can push those sliders to the right and push the depressing and infuriating things to the left. But maybe somebody would do the opposite. I'm not going to enforce happy content on you, right? If you like to be outraged every day, then there's content out there for you.
Oh, I know there's plenty of content for that. Now, as AIs are getting smarter and they keep releasing, this is why I have to read the news, is there's a new update or new version or something every single day. There's every day someone asks about a tool that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Because we're reaching that just constant release of content. Are you finding that you're able to leverage these advances to make your algorithm smarter to get people to there quicker? Because the hard part is that I don't know what I like until I see it. That's the standard a lot of people use. I know if I like it when I see it, which is really hard for a computer to interpret, which is why artificial intelligence is that critical component. That's what's interesting to me. Because even when I do that, I'm working on something, and something happens a lot when someone's hiring like an artist. They go, I want a logo. What do you want it to look like? I don't know. I'll like it when I see it. And every graphic designer hates when they hear that. But that's how a lot of people view content. You can't describe what they like and don't like. Are you finding that you have people go through a process where they look at articles and they go, I like this, I don't like that, I look this, I don't like that? Does that help to train the AI? And then you can then use that knowledge for the next person so they get through it a little faster.
That was exactly the idea of why we ended up with a Tinder-like interface, right? Because that essentially, I don't want to say forces, but it incentivizes the user to give us feedback every single time, as opposed to only when they feel like clicking the thumbs up or thumbs down. And so we learn faster what people like, and it doesn't often match what they would have told us if we just asked them point blank, right? People sometimes don't know that a particular topic actually pisses them off, right? They've interacted with it a lot in the past, but when you ask them swipe right or swipe left, they end up swiping left, and suddenly they are happier when it doesn't appear in their feed anymore. So that's why we chose that interface. I think it works pretty well. But even beyond that, I still think that, okay, we've inferred something about the person's preference. TikTok does that too, right? But I think it's fair to show to a person everything we learned about them and let them change it if they disagree, right? So we learned that you like a particular emotion, but maybe you disagree and you actually want less of it and you were just swiping wrong. Or maybe you were swiping based on the gut reaction and immediate reaction. But now that you're looking at the configuration, you want to optimize for the long term. And in the long term, you would like the ratio between the emotions you get to be this much.
Yeah, I also, sometimes I'm working on different projects. So sometimes I'm just doing a certain amount of research for one of my side businesses, and I'm in a completely different mode as opposed to when I'm in entertainment mode or relaxation mode. We watch different content, we view different things. This is why YouTube sometimes gives you the wrong recommendations. No, I'm not at work. I don't want to watch AI videos all day long. Like I watch a ton when I'm doing research mode. When that's done, I want to watch entertainment type stuff, like a different type of content. And sometimes you can't tell that delineation. So there's this issue people have, which is separating work from play, but also when people create all of this content, like the person who's created this content, then it gets filtered through your app. So now people are getting the content without seeing the ads. Is that a problem for the content creators? Like that they're like, hey, you're showing my content and now the ads are gone, so I can't make money from it. Like, how is that?
It hasn't been so far because we follow fair use. We don't show the entire content. We create the summary. We show the summary. If a person actually wants to read the whole article, they click through to the original and then they read it and they see the ads if they are there. Now, one thing we did do is we eliminated essentially anybody with a paywall. So we just don't collect content from them. We don't summarize it. We don't show that to you because we think, first of all, if they have a paywall, it means they don't want to share. We respect that. But also from the user's perspective, if you click on a link after reading the summary and now you see the paywall instead of the article, that's a terrible experience. They came to an aggregator to avoid doing that. And so why would you give them links to something that requires them to do that? I know that Google News and many others do that. We thought it's just weird. And so if any outlet has a paywall, we don't link to them.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious of that. that a search result will lead me to something that I have to pay to see. And I always wonder, I think it's Forbes who does it the most. It always makes you crazy. I'm like, why are they always appearing in the search results when they don't want to be in the search results? And I also think, what kind of dummy would pay to subscribe to a blog? Like, that blows my mind as well. Like, the content is that, sorry, Forbes, but the content is not that much better than any other site out there. They just happen to be the one that, and I wonder why. I know it's a financial thing. I'm sure there must be some type of arrangement for Google to constantly rank their articles when their articles should be unsearchable, right? The spider should read the article if I can't read the article. So I know there's something, I don't know, nefarious, but I wish it wasn't going on. So I like that idea. That's very interesting. It's a very interesting approach with fair use as well, because more and more Google's moving towards, we're going to take the best part of your article, just show it in the search results so people never have to go to the actual article.
Yeah.
And I think the summary thing, that's very interesting, because I use summaries all the time. I use an AI to summarize a YouTube video before I watch it. And I even teach people when you're watching my videos, because some of my videos are long, that you can jump to the section that matters to you. If I'm watching someone, here's AI News of the Week, and there's 30 articles, I probably know about 17 of them, so I don't want to watch those parts of the video. But I will then jump to the parts that are relevant to me. So I don't see summaries as the same thing as where they pull out the answer to your question from the article and don't show the actual article, which I think is, people rightfully are upset by that, because now no one has any reason to click through. That's a trick they're pulling. It's very interesting. What are you finding? Like, what percentage of articles do people actually click through to? Are people still reading as many articles as they were before, or are they just reading summaries and jumping off?
So I don't know what they were reading before, but I can tell you that the rate of the click-through under the summary is always going to depend on the length of the summary. If the summaries are shorter, then people will read a larger number of summaries before choosing to read one long article, right? So in our case, we're trying to keep those summaries to 3 or 4 bullet points. Therefore, the click-through rate is going to be small, but the number of articles people click through is still relatively large. It's just they skim through a lot before they pick one they want to commit to. And that's the whole point. The whole point is you don't want to read 2,000 words to decide whether you wanted to read this or not. Like, you want to decide in advance, right? It's just, if you're shopping for food, you don't want to eat everything on the shelf to figure out if it's good for you. You want to look at the nutrition label, maybe look at the description, the ingredients list, and then decide. So the summary kind of acts as that. It's almost like an ingredients list in a sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because most of the time, for example, I don't watch entire movie trailers. I'll watch just enough to decide, do I want to watch it or not? Because now movie trailers show you the whole movie, or they'll show too much. I go, no, I just want to know if I want it. The same thing when I'm shopping for books. I'm a voracious reader. I'm just trying to find out what genre the book is, because there's certain genres I like and certain I don't. So I'm just trying to get that basic piece of information, which so often that's my decision-making process. Like, I can't tell from your cover, what genre are you? I can't tell from the description. I don't want to find out the mystery. I just want to know enough, am I going to like it? And one thing I've always found interesting is that in the romance genre, you have to say in the description if it has a happily ever after or not. Because if you don't, this is something I learned because I worked in the space, is that if you have a bad ending and you don't warn people, they get really mad. Like, they do not like that. So it's the only genre I know where you have to let people know that, like, they don't end up together. If you're going to have a not happily ever after, they call it HEA. If you don't have that, you have to put it in the description because people want that warning. I don't even know how it ends. I just want to know if it's going to end, but the bad guy's going to lose. People in different genres want that specific thing. Like, I read science fiction, but I hate First Contact. Like, I want to be in the book after. Like, take me 100 years past that, where we're now the rebellion happening. You know what I mean? And that's a very specific thing, because most people hear that, they go, it sounds the same to me. I go, no, it's completely different. And I think of the future, people are surprised. I have such a positive view of the future, because I think that AI, when used correctly, like, I use it to bring me the content that I want. Exactly like you do, I use a process to find articles and aggregate articles and then go to those. And then I end up reading the ones that I want to read and watching the videos that I want to read. I actually consume more content because I sift out more of the stuff I don't want to read. Because a lot of articles, for example, I don't want to read an article about funding. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for articles about a specific type of developments. And that's allowed me to go, oh, this article is not what I want. This is a different area of technology, or this article is very technical. I don't want that. I don't read a lot of white papers about how AIs are built. It's just not my focus. My focus is on usability, not the back end. Other people focus on that area. So the ability to sift actually allows us to get a better result, not a worse result. I think this is very interesting because a lot of people are so focused on using AI to generate tons of content rather than using AI to get to what we want faster, that acceleration. I think that's very interesting. So where do you see as the future of content? Because one thing I think about now is that someone has an AI write a script and another AI make the video, then another AI uploads the video with an AI generated thumbnail, then my AI summarizes the video and I have another AI text to voice read me the summary. And so maybe I should have just talked to the person because of 7 AIs in the process of the content.
It could be. That's dystopian, the way you describe it. But I suspect what's more likely to happen is more like a farmer that can use a tractor and a weeder and a whole bunch of other implements to till their soil and to get it ready to produce a very large yield, where it previously took maybe 150 farm workers on that same farm to produce 1/10 of the yield. So ultimately, there will be a farm somewhere. And the same thing with content creation, at least with good content, there will be a creator somewhere. But all the things that previously required a lot of tedious work from other people in that chain will be automated away, which is great for us, the consumers, probably great for the world as a whole. And it's probably going to displace a very large number of people from their jobs and cause a painful transition in the process. Using that farmer analogy again, somewhere in the 1920s, 30% of the American workforce got displaced, right? And not all of them have recovered even until today. You're still seeing large groups of people and locations that are basically poor because they haven't quite recovered in 4 generations from the mechanization of agriculture. I think we're going to probably see something like that. I hope we handle it better this time, in part because the people getting displaced are white collar, and so they have more political will, more political power. So hopefully they can fend for themselves better than agriculture workers that in the 20s. But for us, the consumers of content, it's going to be great. And I agree with you. Curative AI is much more interesting than generative AI because ultimately all generative AI does, even in the best case, is save time for the creator. But what do I care as a consumer? I just don't.
Yeah, I always say to people, nobody who reads my book cares how long it took me to write it. If it took me 2 hours or 2,000, the reader only cares if the book is good. Nobody cares about my journey, my struggle, how many rounds of editing I had to do. Nobody is going to buy a book to go, oh, this guy, he edited it 15 times. That guy only edited it 10. I'm going to read this one. Nobody just buys that way, right? We don't shop that way. We don't care. As the creator and the consumer, I think about that a lot. So my final question is, do you think this will lead to a democratization of content creation, as in smaller creators will have a better chance of being found? Because for a while, that was the case. So really small could make a lot of videos. And now the search results are a night.
Yeah.
The quality, if you write an article for the purpose of search engine optimization, you have to write a worse article. You just do. You have to write a longer article. You don't write the same article because you're looking at how many keywords do I have? Which terms do I have to use? Do I have enough things in the tags? Do I have enough images with the alt tags? You add in all of these elements that are written for the search engine, not for the reader, the end user. And there's even tools that help you optimize that. I had to do that for a long time. Now, when I write articles and I drive traffic from social media, I go, oh, I can just write a good article. I don't worry about this other element of trying to get search engine optimization because I can drive traffic in a different way. It allows me to just go focus on content again, which is an unbelievable feeling. I go, oh my gosh, I can write stuff that's just good again, like I was 15 years ago. Do you see that with a tool like yours, which is going, okay, whatever's good rises to the top without looking at the source, as in, it doesn't matter if it's from a big news organization or a small organization. It just matters if it's well written and it's good content. Do you think this will actually lead to a democratization and kind of go back to that era where the best content wins?
If everyone were to use it, yes. But that's a big if, right? And so it's hard for me to predict what percentage of people will follow this kind of model, as opposed to trusting what the big search engines do. And one day, like you mentioned before, the big search engines are just going to change from giving you a list of links to other people's content to giving you the right answer with no links to it whatsoever. And that's the opposite of democratizing content, because that right answer might have just been produced in a handshake deal with them, right? It could just be the answer of whoever paid that company the most to appear in the right answer, and maybe with some profit sharing in the back end. I don't know, basically, is the answer, because it depends on consumer behavior, and I am not smart enough to predict consumer behavior. I can predict what technology will be available and how the technologies will compete and fare against each other, but I have no idea what consumers will do given the choice.
Yeah, an example for me is when I'm looking at a review of a video game, I always look for a small creator. I don't trust, this is, in a lot of industries are notorious, but large video game reviewers make all of their money from ads from large video game companies. So they're notorious for, you cannot write a negative review. Or you can't go below for certain companies' games no matter what. So they're not allowed to be authentic. And smaller creators who aren't monetized yet, who no one's willing to spend an ad with, they're not worth bribing. So it's like, there's no authenticity there. And it's a weird way to say it. And it's the same thing I say about my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is quite small. My personal YouTube channel is smaller than all my other channels. I can write negative reviews of products. I don't trust people who only write positive reviews. I'm like, you've never encountered a bad product, really? I can't imagine. I would love to have such a blessed life where every product I brought from Amazon was as good as I thought it was going to be. Every time I got a haircut, it looked great. Like, what a life to lead, where someone reviews 1,000 video games and they're all 5 stars. That's amazing. I would love to live that way. Like, what a happy universe, but I don't trust them. And that's, I think, where authenticity comes from. I look for people who, they don't like everything. So if they like something, it means they really like it. And I think that the idea of having a way to filter out the things, like, people think, I get asked this all the time. They think I use AI to generate all of my content. Like, I do the opposite. I can't. I have to be more authentic, because people are more suspicious of me as an AI expert, a person who talks about AI. They go, oh, he must use AI generated images of his family, must do this. And I have to really make it clear that when I do AI generated images, like, all of my images are pictures of me running from exploding helicopters or jumping off of an exploding submarine, because there's no way someone encounters that many exploding submarines. If you watch enough thumbnails, you go, oh, it can't. So the entertainment reveals itself, because it's exciting imagery, as opposed to, it's really close to reality, but 10% better, which is where deception happens. I stay outside the uncanny valley by going extreme. And I think that's the future for AI that I like, is that it allows smaller people to be more entertaining. It allows artists to increase their volume of output with high quality output. And it allows the consumer to filter out the things that they don't want to see, because that's what we've been trying to do for so long. That started all the way back with TiVo, when you can record television, just not watch commercials. That was this panacea. I remember when I was in high school, every year, the amount of commercials would go up. And 30-minute show, it was like 27 minutes of show, then 26 minutes. Now I'm not even sure if it's even 20. Last time I looked, it was 8 minutes of commercials for 30 minutes of television. 20 or 30% of everything you watch is commercials. So of course, getting that time back is so valuable. If I don't watch commercials, I can watch twice as many TV shows. So I think that has me excited for the future. So I really like the direction you're going. I think it's a really positive use of AI. And I think that's really exciting. Where can people find out more about what you're doing, get more sense of how they can filter in the things they want and filter out the things they don't, and improve the democratization of content in the internet?
So our website is otherweb.com, or if you want to download the apps, they're on Android and iOS, called Otherweb. Right, and we keep adding more and more products beyond just the website and the apps, but you'll be able to find all of that on our website. Now, I do want to caution with regards to what you just said, that besides just the production and the consumption, there's also distribution and monetization. And how it's done and who handles it is probably what's going to determine whether content gets democratized or actually get concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. Like it has in some industries where it's really hard to produce an independent film right now and have people see it. Oddly enough, it's much easier to produce the film, but nobody's going to see it because distribution is controlled by fewer hands than before. So I don't know if the Blair Witch Project can happen today, essentially, to the same extent that it did in the past. So I think that we need to push as consumers, not just for tools on the consumption side, which is what we're trying to do right now, but for better tools on the distribution side as well. And OtherWeb will be a player in that part of the industry at some point, but I urge others to join as well.
That's very interesting. You've given us a lot of food for thought, and this has been an amazing episode. Thank you so much for being here for today's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Starting with AI can be scary. ChatGPT Profits is not only a bestseller, but also the missing instruction manual to make mastering ChatGPT a breeze. Bypass the hard stuff and get straight to success with ChatGPT Profits. As always, I would love for you to support the show by paying full price on Amazon. But you can get it absolutely free for a limited time at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and tactics on how to leverage AI to escape that rat race. Head over to artificialintelligencepod.com now to see past episodes, leave a review, and check out all of our socials.